Hi everyone, it's Simon Keeling here, and it is Friday the 5th of April. Thanks again for watching weatherweb.net. Remember that we're kept free of charge by the adverts that you see around the screen here, and it's by you coming back and using the site and using the adverts that keeps us free of charge. Now, I've been hinting all week about the change taking place in the weather and the hint of milder conditions coming in, although more unsettled conditions, and things really not changed that much today. This is the pressure chart for today. You see that we've still got this brisk northeasterly wind affecting much of England, Wales and also Ireland, making it feel cold here. However, it should be the last day of this wind. This is the pressure chart for tomorrow. Notice high pressure centred across Iceland and generally across the country, slack pressure flow. Got a front though affecting northern parts of Scotland, which is going to be bringing some cloud and some spots of rain, but for most it should be a fair day and a sunny one too. Now into Sunday we start to see lower pressure moving into the west of the UK, perhaps just bringing a little bit of rain to southern Ireland, perhaps the far southwest of England, but for many it should be a dry day. Notice though that the flow is tending to come up more from a southeasterly direction, and the front that we've got across Scotland here probably just harbouring some cloud and some bits and pieces of drizzle. Into Monday next week, the flow temporarily comes back into a cold east to southeasterly. You see this battle taking place of the mild air trying to get in from the southwest. By Tuesday, the milder air is across southern parts of Ireland, Wales, southwestern parts of England. It's bringing outbreaks of rain with it. Some of those fairly hefty at times in the west, lighter towards the east, but on the leading edge of the front here, what we could find as it comes into the colder air is a period of sleet or even some snow over higher ground. Then into Wednesday of next week, low pressures in control, being west of Ireland. Most of the country then into a milder west or southwesterly flow, most of the rain affecting Scotland and northern parts of England. There'll be some heavy showers and strong winds driving into the west, particularly affecting parts of Wales and southwest England, where they could merge into longer spells of rain at times. But the most notable factor of the weather by then will be that things will have warmed up considerably. Now, as we look further ahead, there's a bit of discrepancy between the models. This is the 7 to 10 day forecast of the 500 millibar anomalies. And on the left here, we have the ECMWF. On the right here, we've got the GFS. Now, what I want you to notice is that the ECMWF making much more of this trough out here in the Atlantic than the GFS is much flatter on the GFS. And as a result, the ECMWF builds the ridge more strongly through the UK, whereas you can see here that the GFS just keeps it flat through the UK during the period. Now, the ECMWF hasn't exactly had a great record recently, and things have leaned more in towards the GFS, but I have to say this GFS doesn't look particularly too believable just at the moment. It looks a little bit simplistic to me. I think the ECMWF probably has it. But really, in terms of detail, doesn't really affect us that much. I think what we'll see, as in the GFS Ensemble prediction here, is that we get this rise in temperature look over the coming days, bringing us up to nearer normal levels for April. Also, you notice here that we've got this more unsettled spell look into the early part of next week, producing the rain. Now, the GFS Ensemble wants to keep some rain affecting western and southern areas into the middle to the end of next week, but the ECMWF tends to make things a little bit drier. I think we're probably going to go somewhere in between the two, where after this unsettled spell of weather it will become drier at the end of next week with some sunny spells around. One thing we will notice though, and particularly after the reports in today's papers of a drought being in the offing, or the risk of preparing for a drought, this is total rainfall for the next week, and you can see how most of the west of the country is seeing between 20 and 40 millimetres of rain, more over higher ground, but across the east and the south still little rain, probably between about 10 and 15 millimetres. And towards the end of the period, this is how these models actually see things. This is the ECMWF for the 14th. You see it's built this strong ridge, which is what we saw on the 7 to 10 day chart. Compare that to the Canadian for the same period, and look, it also builds the ridge, but it actually makes more of the low out towards the west during that period. On the 15th, the ECMWF has this ridge built strongly through the UK, but it's starting to pull the high back north, look, and bring in more of a colder east to northeasterly flow across the country once again. Whereas the Canadian has the ridge there moved more towards the east, but it brings in this milder southwesterly. So you see the discrepancy that's starting to develop. Now, given the pattern of this year's weather, I tend to go more towards the ECMWF idea of that high getting squeezed back up towards the north. Dry conditions dominating, but perhaps becoming cooler again briefly during that middle part of the month. And just finally, this was just out of interest, really. I just wanted to show you this. We've just had the coldest March since 1962, and this was the April of 1962 that followed that cold March. These are the temperatures for April in 1962, and you can see how it held on being cold across many eastern and southern areas throughout the month. And if you have a look at May 1962, look, the same again. Colder than normal, we maintained a northeasterly flow across the east, and it stayed cool. June was very similar, and this now is the chart for July for 1962, and you can see again how cool it stayed. And the 500 millibar flow for the summer as a whole, this was from the 1st of June to the 31st of August 1962. This is how it looked. We had this deep trough across Europe which extended down into the Mediterranean, as we had a ridge out towards the west which basically put high pressure towards the west, low pressure to the east, and kept a north and northeasterly flow. But it was generally dry, particularly in the west. So you can see there's quite notable comparisons here between the setup that we had in 1962 and what's actually occurring now. And certainly the winter of 1960, the summer of 1962 didn't really warm up that much. It stayed on the cool side. And then, well, we all know what happened during the winter of 1962-1963. Of course, past performance is no indication of future performance, but it's just interesting, isn't it, to make these comparisons. And on that note, I'll leave you to ponder on what could be. But for now, thanks for watching weatherweb.net. Remember that we kept free of charge by the adverts you see around the screen here. It's by you coming back and using the site that keeps us free of charge. So thanks for doing that, and keep the sun shining. Bye for now.